today, let's dive deep into the issue of leaf tip burn on the bird of paradise. Because for most plant lovers who keep bird of paradise, the most troublesome issue they face is leaf tip burn. Leaf tip burn is caused by three main reasons. First, low air humidity. Second, drought. Third, root rot. For plant owners caring for them at home, it's mostly drought that causes leaf tip burn. The plant in this video suffered because during last year's lockdown, I didn't water it for a long time, so I cut off all the leaves. All the current leaves grew after that. Before June, I was caring for it normally, watering it once every 3 days. It basically didn't have tip burn. But once June arrived and the weather got hotter, tip burn started showing. I didn't change my watering frequency at all. And in my home, humidity is consistently kept above 60%. Some plant owners might say, bird of paradise is drought tolerant. Some bloggers or growers only water once every 2 weeks and seem fine. First, you have to understand what kind of soil their bird of paradise is in. Also, for those who water every 2 weeks, what kind of soil are they using? To begin with, leaf tip burn almost exclusively happens with large bird of paradise plants. No one ever reports tip burn on small, potted ones. 90% of the time, it's large birds of paradise that get tip burn. At the plant nurseries, they use clay mixed with wood shavings. The wood shavings are added for drainage, but once the clay compacts, it's very hard to water thoroughly. So for these large plants shipped from Guangzhou, they're basically grown in clay mixed with wood shavings. When you water this mix, it drains out immediately. After compacting, the clay doesn't retain water and becomes extremely hard to soak through. I water mine by using a hose and flushing water until clear water flows from the bottom. Even with this method, it's hard to soak the soil, let alone people watering at home, unless you soak the pot. But soaking isn't practical. That's why those using cover pots or baskets for care have a higher chance of leaf tip burn than those who repot into breathable pots. Bird of paradise is a subtropical plant. Subtropical climates are typically humid, so the bird of paradise is a very water-thirsty plant. It's just that its roots have a certain water-storing ability, but that doesn't mean it's highly drought tolerant. That's a common misconception with bird of paradise. Some growers say, if I water more frequently, won't the roots rot? Well, I water once every 3 days, and my indoor ventilation isn't great, but look at my roots. Hardly any rot at all. Almost none. Root rot in bird of paradise is caused when you repot it later, using pots with poor ventilation, and soil that isn't breathable or doesn't drain well. So watering a bird of paradise isn't a fixed rule. In fact, this applies to all plants. You should water based on your growing conditions, ventilation, and the soil in your pot. That's why many growers blindly believe one sentence: bird of paradise is drought tolerant, and water only once every 10 to 15 days. That's why they get yellow leaves and tip burn. In the video, the soil of my plant still looks very moist. But in reality, the roots can no longer absorb moisture from it. And when I water it, the soil doesn't retain moisture. The water runs out before the plant can absorb it. That's why the leaves yellow and get burnt edges. This isn't a sudden issue. After 10 days or half a month of poor care, the prolonged lack of water is what causes yellowing and tip burn. So growers need to determine why the yellowing and tip burn is happening. Yes, dry air can also cause yellowing and tip burn, but dry air alone won't cause widespread yellowing and burning. It usually starts with leaf splitting, then curling, and only then do the edges yellow and burn. And the likelihood of yellowing and burning due to low humidity is actually quite low. While bird of paradise does like humidity, it's not like calatheas or ferns that demand extremely high humidity. Basically, if the room is comfortable enough for people not to feel dryness, then the bird of paradise won't develop leaf burn from low humidity either. After you pour in water, the water still hasn't fully absorbed after 3 to 4 hours. That's poor draining soil. Even if you manage the watering perfectly with that kind of soil, its heavy weight will affect root development. Over time, the roots won't be able to grow properly, and the plant will die. If you can't control watering with that kind of soil, you'll get rot, actually. It's easy to distinguish root rot causing leaf burn. If the roots are rotting, the stem will show signs too. The base of the stem will turn black and become very loose.